This is Get Savvy, the podcast for people who want to claim back their time through the power of delegation, productivity, and automation. Welcome to this episode of the Get Savvy podcast. I'm your host, Teesha, and I have no co-host with me today, but that's okay because I am telling absolutely everyone at the moment about this tool, which is my absolute favorite at the moment. Is a bit of a game changer in the AI space, and that is Claude Cowork. I've been absolutely loving it, honestly. And with everything that we talk about on the podcast, especially at the moment, things do keep evolving quickly. So as I'm talking to you, it is currently end of March 2026. So depending on when you listen to this, there may be some updates since I am telling you this. But as of right now, Claude Cowork it's still in its research preview phase, which is what they're calling it, which essentially means that it's still an experimental tool. They're still improving it. They're still working on it. So yes, it's not 100% perfect yet, but it is still awesome. And if you're not using it, then I'm here to tell you to use it. So I'm going to start in plain English. What is Claude Cowork? And it's a desktop agent. And Claude is created by Anthropic. So this is not ChatGPT, it's not Gemini, it's not Copilot. Claude, which is Claude, so there's a Claude bot as well, but we're talking about the other Claude this time. So this is created by Anthropic. And Claude Cowork means that it can now operate across and within your computer. It can carry out multi-step tasks, and it's basically been designed for non-coders. So that is great for us normal folk. But it's basically like having a virtual assistant actually sitting inside your computer, actually clicking the buttons, writing or moving the data, and actually completing the tasks. So we're now at that stage where it's no longer just that you're talking to AI and asking it questions, and then it can tell you answers, help you complete the task or generate the content. It's now at the point where it's actually doing those tasks for you. So I, for one, am very excited about that. And yeah, up until now, AI tools have been great at the thinking, the writing, the answering, but you still had to copy, paste, click, move between tools, whatever it was, to actually complete the task. You were still required to do that. But Claude Cowork is now removing that gap. So Claude Cowork's going to sit quite nicely alongside automation. And honestly, sometimes it's going to be in place of it. Using AI, you can start to bring in some flexibility rather than your typical structured task that you would usually set up as an automation. So often automations are going to be those recurring tasks that follow the same kind of structure every time. They're really amazing tasks to be able to automate because the same thing is going to happen on usually, the same kind of timing, or, if someone completes an action, then XYZ happens. So if you're now using Claude Cowork, you could instead have something a little bit more nuanced and complex. So you could say, hey, Claude, pull XYZ data, update my CRM or whatever other system you have, and then email or chat my leadership team a summary or a report once you've done that. And then it's going to go away and it's going to figure out all of those steps. So I know previously on the podcast, we talk a lot about AI, but often we've been referring to AI, we've been referring to it kind of as ChatGPT, because that has been the one so widely used, known, and talked about. But if you get any of this type of content on your social media feeds, then you would have likely seen lately that there are a lot of people ditching ChatGPT and actually moving over to Claude. So now Claude is widely considered superior to ChatGPT. It has better reasoning. It has the ability to handle those long conversations without going super slow and forgetting things and you having to restart in a new chat, the quality of its outputs, and people are also finding that even the writing style in Claude is often less robotic. So it's generally at the moment preferred for more complex tasks, more complex understanding that's required. It's really good for coding, analyzing massive documentation, and providing those outputs that require a little bit more flexibility, let's say. There is also the recent controversy surrounding OpenAI's ethics and everything to do with the United States government, which I'm not going to go into today. You can go and search that up if you want to have a look into it. But yeah, there's also that on the side. So with all of that said, you might be asking, okay, well, should I be ditching ChatGPT and switching to Claude? And honestly, that depends. It depends what you're using ChatGPT and AI for. Right now, one of the biggest reasons that you would likely stay with ChatGPT is if you need image generation. Claude doesn't do that because that's not Claude's focus. So if you are doing that quite a lot in ChatGPT, then I would recommend staying there, especially if you've got a paid account, because obviously on the free ChatGPT account, you can only have so many images generated or even put into ChatGPT for it to read per day. So yeah, if you're doing that, I would say keep your paid ChatGPT. But if you are going to stay using a paid ChatGPT, I would absolutely recommend that you at least try using the free version of Claude for a little while or for some different tasks, if you haven't already, to see how much you like it. Unfortunately, on the free version of Claude, though, you're not going to get access to Claude Cowork, which is what we're talking about right now. So Claude does, of course, have its standard LLM sort of chatbot like the Geminis, like the ChatGPTs. But this, like I've been talking about, is going that next step now into Claude Cowork. So unfortunately, that's not available on the free version. It is for paid versions only. But yeah, like I said, if you're not using ChatGPT for image generation, then I would say maybe start by using Claude, the free version of Claude, just to get a feel for what it's like. And if you're liking it, then yeah, I mean, I've personally switched from paid ChatGPT to paid Claude at the moment. So yeah, and I'm really loving it. So worth a try at least. Obviously, you can always go back and forwards and things do keep evolving and changing very quickly at the moment. So let's get back to Claude Cowork and how and when you might use it. So let's start with the how. First, obviously, you're going to need a paid account. So you will need to do that first. Then you will download the Claude desktop app. And then after you've done that, I'm pretty sure it prompts you to do this, but what you'll do is you'll set up a folder somewhere on your computer for Claude. Somewhere, it could be on your desktop, wherever. I've got mine in like a online folder. It doesn't matter where it is, but as long as it can connect to it through your file explorer. So you want to create a folder in there, just call it Claude, and then ideally inside it, you want to give it some of those context documents that we've talked about before when you've been prompting ChatGPT or making a GPT or the equivalents in the other AI tools. You can give it those context documents to tell it about yourself and your branding, etc. So this is exactly what we want to do with Claude Cowork as well. There are specific document types that Claude likes for this. So again, probably go and Google that. I'm pretty sure they're .md documents. And so ideally, yeah, you want to give it a about document, a branding document, a how you like to work type document within that folder that you've just set up. But then Claude will also use that folder to create documents in and access other documents in. So that is going to be the purpose of that folder. I would also recommend getting the Claude Chrome extension as well, especially if you're going to be doing online tasks, because it will ask you to open those tasks, those tabs, and connect it to the Claude desktop app through that extension. Once you've done that, you'll have your desktop app for Claude and you'll have a chat option, and next to it, there will be code and cowork. And so you'll just click over to the Cowork tab and then you can basically just tell it what you want it to help you with. So with any of this kind of stuff, do keep in mind that Obviously, you only want to give it access to the things that you want it to have access to. It will prompt you if you want to give XYZ access or always allow, etc. So just make sure that you are reading that, mindful of what you're clicking when you're doing this. So over the past few weeks, I have used Claude Cowork for a few things. The one I actually started with was for our budget for the next financial year. I admit I'm absolutely not a numbers person. I don't like them. They don't like me. I can do it, but it just takes me a while. So I thought that was absolutely the perfect task to collaborate with Claude on so that it could save me some time. So what I did was I gave it in that folder my previous year's draft budget that I had done. I gave it access to review our profit and loss for the current financial year that we're coming to the end of. And then I told it where it could find information about some other numbers that it might need to pull to forecast for subscription increases and read where in the year where we have increases for things like insurance and like predict those like I would normally do. I then told it before actually starting on the task to ask me any questions that would help it perform this task to the best of its ability. So I didn't want it to just immediately start. I actually hang on 1 second, have a think about this, and then come back to me and let me know if you have any questions. And that's exactly what it does. It pops up with a little interactive pop-up actually, and it'll say, do you want me to do X, Y, or Z? And it will just give you an option you can click, or you can type into the other field if none of those options are what you're wanting. So once it did that and asked me those extra questions for context, I gave it the go-ahead to actually start on the task. So at that point, it opens up the tabs on my Chrome browser and got to work doing the research, looking at the numbers that I asked it to look at. And then it created me a full budget in Excel, which is what I asked it to use. Based on the template of the last one I had provided, but it was actually nicer to look at than the one I had created, coming from an ex-designer. I mean, my previous one wasn't fancy, so anyways, Claude did a great job. And then it could be found in that folder that I created. So yeah, it went and did everything for me. And granted, it did take a little while. I would say it took maybe half an hour. So it's not instant. And if you're used to using the ChatGPTs and the Geminis and the Copilots or whatever, where you're just chatting with it, that is a lot more instantaneous than Claude Cowork, because Claude's actually performing the task. So please do give it a little bit of grace to perform the task, because it's, obviously got to go away and do things. It can't just magic it out of nowhere. And we are asking it to use logic here, obviously, as well. But the awesome thing about this, even though it wasn't instant, was that I could continue on doing my other work while it was doing what it needed to do, even though it needed access to some tabs on my Chrome browser and it needed my Excel. I didn't have to close anything that I was working on. I had a different Chrome browser up that I was working in doing my work, and it was just doing its thing over on a separate browser off to the side. So you don't have to stop and wait until it's done. You don't have to walk away from your computer, and you can just continue doing what you're doing. And then once it was done, of course, I reviewed it. And honestly, there were only a few tiny tweaks that I had to make. And to be honest, that was regarding things I hadn't given it context to do. So it did everything perfectly from the prompting that I had given it. And yes, it took Claude 30 minutes to do that. But then it only took me 5 minutes to do that task, to do those tiny little tweaks. So that saved me 30 minutes, probably more than 30 minutes if I was doing it. Like I said, I'm not your numbers person. So even with me spending 5 minutes on it, that is friggin' amazing. I was also speaking yesterday to Jo, my usual co-host. She had a database task that she had where she needed to contact a bunch of people. She had templates for the emails that she needed to send, but it needed to be updated each time with the right person's name, their email, some other things, obviously, so that they were emails individual to everyone. But there were thousands that she needed to do. And she has done this task before. And last time she automated it. But when you send a big volume of emails like that, you can quite easily trigger spam filters if you sent a certain amount within a certain time frame. So she asked whether Claude Cowork could do the job, and I said, hell yeah, Claude Cowork can do the job for you. Another awesome thing that the Claude desktop app has is scheduled tasks. So basically she could have it do the task that she needed at regular intervals. So she's asked Claude, I want you to perform this task for me. You need to look at this database. You need to update the email every time. Go into my emails, actually send the email, and she's asked it to do one each 10 minutes so that it wasn't going to trigger any spam filters. One thing you do need to make sure is that the app stays open while the task is being completed. But like I said, you don't have to stop what you're doing in order for it to be completed. And you can leave your desk as well if you wanted to. That's totally up to you. With the Claude phone app as well, I personally haven't used this, but I believe you can start new sessions from your phone or continue a local session that is already happening on your laptop remotely via remote control on the phone app. So yeah, pretty awesome capabilities right there. Now, yes, there are limitations. It can really crank through quite a few tokens, and depending on the type of task it is. So it can crank through the tokens, you can hit your usage limits pretty fast, again, depending on the task. So if you're just starting out with this, I would recommend starting with a smaller task and get a feel for things, like get a feel for what it's capable of doing, how long it takes, and how much usage you are spending on doing those tasks. Say, for example, my budget task that I had, I did time it out in the middle of doing that because it was analyzing so much data. But I just jumped in, increased the usage that I was happy with it using for that day. And then afterwards, I turned it back down. So that was totally fine. But just something to be mindful of. And like anything, like I've said, with these AI tools, automation, as long as you're setting limits that you're happy with, you're exposing it to things that you're comfortable with it being able to access, you're prompting it well, then you will be a lot more successful. And the more context that you can give it up front, then the less work that it has to go away and do and find out and research. Obviously, part of Claude Cowork is to help you go away and do some of those actions itself, which is fine. But yeah, any context that you do have living inside your brain, it would be beneficial to let Claude know that up front. Now, I could probably keep going on about Claude and Claude Cowork, but I'll leave it there for today, and I'm sure I'll be back very soon to talk more about it, and we'll have some more changes as it evolves and comes out of that review stage. But in the meantime, if you'd like some help figuring out better ways to get the work done, then we would love to have a chat with you at Strictly Savvy. You can book a call with us over at strictlysavvy.co.nz. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Get Savvy podcast.